Thank you, and welcome back to the Patriots 300 Level Podcast for our 92nd episode this week. My name is Eric, and I'm joined by my co-host Kevin. We apologize for a long delay between episodes. We've had a lot going on this fall, but hopefully we're back for this playoff run. There's a chance I might not be here next week, but we will discuss that when we get there. Uh, so for this episode, we'll be just breaking down the Patriots season as a whole and then previewing the Patriots' upcoming home playoff game versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Make sure to follow us on Twitter/X and Instagram at Pat's 300 Level Pod for up to the minute updates and commentary on news of the day. So Kevin, um, Patriots finished the season as the tied. They're the number two seed, tied for the best record in the AFC at 14-3. I'd have to go back to see. I know we both thought they would do well based on their schedule, the improvement in coaching. Let's see. You had them at 9-8. I had them at 10-7. I thought I had them maybe slightly higher.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's in. I know I posted on LinkedIn on the Patriots schedule post that I had them at 11-6. So I'm
You did
surprised
not.
I said 9-8.
Yeah. I think it's probably because of how bad it was last year, and then in the preseason they didn't look great. But yeah, so they outperformed our expectations. I think we both said they were going to make the playoffs. We both thought probably as a wild card. Where it was probably one more year before they were going to take that next step, given how young this roster was and how it would take a little bit of time for Vrabel to set his culture. But they exceeded expectations. They did have a soft schedule, as a lot of people pointed out, but they've done what good teams do, which is beat the bad teams. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat. Except early in the season, they actually lost those. They lost to the Raiders. That was the first game of the year. Usually the first four games are an extension of the preseason. And then the Steelers game, if they only had four turnovers instead of five, they likely win that game too. But outside of that, their only loss was to the Bills. Again, that was a game they probably should have won where they're up 21 nothing, but the Bills are a good team. You beat some good teams in there as well. The Buccaneers were 6-2 at the time you played them. I know they missed the playoffs. The Falcons have talent. Not a great team, not great coach, but they're talented. You beat the Ravens again without Lamar Jackson, but they beat all the teams they're supposed to beat. They beat the Jets, they beat the Dolphins. It's not too surprising looking in retrospect that they finished at 14-3, but given how bad they were last year, how completely lost they look, just 1 year difference with a different coach can make all the difference in the world. And then Drake Maye just exceeding our expectations for this year.
Yep. Yeah, no, agree. I think I don't think any of us would have predicted this how they would look this year. So I even know that when we were talking about what they would do as far as wins, even at the beginning of the season when we were looking at the schedule and saying, hey, they could win 11, 12 games.
Yep.
I think that looks completely different than what we thought it would have looked like.
Hmm.
I thought the defense was actually going to look better than it has. And it would have been those close games where you're taking advantage of these teams, where, as Vrabel said, that they wanted to take advantage of bad football. And we knew there was
Yep.
a lot of bad football on there. So you could say, hey, they're going to get these games, just they're going to kind of squeak by. They're going to kind of eat up on these teams, but it might not look great. It may be kind of those close games. It may be ugly. Um, Maybe scoring 17, 20 points, that sort of thing. I don't think any of us would have expected them to be the to win, not easily because some of these games weren't easy.
Yeah.
But there was most of the games were never in doubt.
Yeah.
There's only a handful you would say, but you didn't really know what the outcome was going to be. Even though sometimes the score is a little bit closer at some points, I never had a doubt they were going to lose. They weren't going to win against the Saints while they were playing them.
Yep.
Same thing goes.
Falcons.
Falcons, even the Bengals, you just felt like after kind of that ugliness get went away, that they were going to somehow find a way to win, and they did.
Yep. Yep.
And the offense, and again, the steps that Drake took this year, from even the beginning of the year
Yep.
throughout the end, is just it's insane.
Hmm.
I don't think even when we were talking at the beginning of the year. I think we were kind of maybe tempering some of our expectations just because it looked ugly in the Raiders game. And then even the
Then
Steelers, you
also,
could tell something was developing in the offense. I know we talked about it
yeah.
where, hey, they're moving the ball, they're just turning it over. So
Hmm.
there is something going there. And then after that, they basically been what we've kind of seen since. And
Yeah.
you could really tell why it was so important to have Josh McDaniels here. Something
Yep.
that both of us wanted, and you could see the benefit in his system versus what we saw last year. And you
Yep.
could just tell the difference in coordinators. Where one, we have a guy that knows how to game plan, knows how to put players in the right position, and you see that with the offensive line, where you don't have as many issues because they have the checks at the line that they do. They give protection where they're not just saying, "Hey, we have five guys that are going to run routes." He has guys that do different things in the blocking scheme. Sometimes they have max protection. Sometimes they have some running backs stay for chips or tight ends stay for chips. We didn't see that last year.
Yeah.
And it was a little ridiculous how bad of an offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt was. But you really see the difference this year and what Josh can do. And if the thing I keep thinking at is like if Drake looks this good this year, what is he going to do when he understands the defense even more
Yeah.
in the next few years, assuming Josh is able to stay with him?
Yeah, and I think the thing too why we were tempering our expectations a little bit was Josh Allen didn't really break out until year three. Again, Josh Allen was more raw of a prospect coming into the draft, but he had pretty good coaching in place versus Drake Maye last year. The coaching system, the whole organization was kind of a just a crap show. So we kind of went into this year, at least you and me, only speaking for ourselves, we kind of viewed this year as Drake May's true rookie year and think that he would take a step forward, but we wouldn't really see that jump until next year. Whereas this year, he just took leaps and bounds, setting record after record. Again, you could argue he wasn't playing the toughest schedule, but defensive wise, the he did play some of the top defenses and passing defenses in the NFL, and he just broke record after record, even records that have been held by Tom Brady, records that have been held in NFL that others no one has held. So
Yeah,
he
like
just
even there was at one point, I think halfway through the season, his completion percentage on passes further than I think 20 yards
yep,
was 90, so 90 something percent, which
yeah,
is an insane number because usually you look at the league leaders each year and usually they're right around in the 50s, usually
yeah.
55%. And he's doing that at night. Like I've never seen anyone throw the deep ball as well as he does.
With
Um,
the receiving group that he has, it's one thing if you have Randy Moss that you're throwing to, but you
mhm,
have, again, no discredit to them. I think the receiving core is underrated, especially around the league outside of Stephon Diggs. But you have this Stephon Diggs who he didn't throw too many deep balls to. He did throw a couple, but you have a rookie in Kyle Williams who half the time wasn't running the right route. You have Booty who has improved and I think is one of the more underrated receivers in the NFL. And then you had Mac Hollins, Demario Douglas, who's 5'6", running deep routes. So it's not like he's throwing it to Devontae Adams or Randy Moss or someone like that.
mhm. Um, Yeah, I just can't say enough good things about
Yep.
how Drake has looked. I know we are going to talk a little bit about the Dolphins. I don't think there's really much to say. It's
Yeah.
the going into the half, it was a little nerve-wracking because it was like, oh, this kind of feels like one of those weird like Dolphins games where like
Yeah.
at the end of the year, and then like Mike had said, they kind of woke up from their nap and then put the throttle on, and then ended up just showing them why they shouldn't be there.
The
Um,
one thing that does worry me though going into the playoffs is we have seen this throughout the year where they either have a slow first half or they have a slow second half where they have a slow first half and then the second half they kick it into gear and then they blow the other team out. Or they have a great first half and then the second half they just take their foot off the pedal. We have seen that a decent amount throughout the year. I know it's tough, especially if you're beating a good team or you're playing a bad team going into it. But if you have halves like that in the playoffs, your season could be done. I know that we'll get into it in a little bit, but if you have a bad half versus the Chargers and they take the lead, it might be tough for you to overcome, especially since they have a very good passing defense. So that's just one thing that has worried me throughout the year. They haven't been playing great opponents where the opponents have been able to capitalize on it. But when you get to the playoffs, you're not necessarily going to be able to have that uh, be able to make up for those mistakes.
Yep. All right. So first thing we'll get into, three down of the season. We're gonna exclude Drake May here, just because that's the obvious number one. So I'll go ahead and give my three. I know Eric wanted to keep his three secret for me, so
Yeah.
that way we'll go kind of just say them all, and then we'll just give a little spiel.
Yep.
See if there's anything different. I got Stephon Diggs, Milton
Yep.
Williams, and Hunter Henry as my three.
Oh, nice. So I have top two are same for me, but in different order. I have Milton Williams as number one. He just showed that he was every worth every dollar he was paid. And then when once he went out of the lineup for 5 weeks with his ankle injury, you saw how much the run defense just suffered just from solely him. And again, I know they lost Tonga at one point and Farmer, but the run defense started to slip once he went out. Sorry, I know I wasn't listening to what you said of we'll list it and then go. But so that was
Mhm.
Milton Williams, number one, number two, Diggs, number three, Gonzo. And then honorable mentions, Marcus Jones and Assman, Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah, yeah. I think I don't think there's really too much to add even too on Diggs and Williams. The only reason why I had Diggs ahead of Williams was just that he's been here the whole season and healthy,
Yeah,
whereas Williams
that's
has been
true.
out for 6 weeks. So um, that's the only reason I had that. And then Hunter Henry, again, the guy is so dependable, so
Mm.
reliable. I think I gotta look it up again, but he's close to either second or third in receiving yards for the team. Um, very dependable.
I think he's second.
He's not the greatest blocker um, out there, but he does provide usually some good chips. And he's just that guy that if you gotta have it, it's usually either Henry or Diggs. And I think he was really good for Drake this year. And I thought he had a really good year again.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, he was second on the team with 760 receiving yards,
Mhm.
first on the team in touchdowns with seven.
Mhm.
So for me, like you said, not much else to say on Gonzo. I mean, on Diggs. For Gonzo, again, he just continued to be one of the top cornerbacks in the league. I know around the league it might be underrated the season he had because he didn't have a lot of interceptions, but he wasn't really, I don't know if he even had a single one.
No,
But
yeah.
he wasn't thrown too much because of that, and when he was, he didn't really allow any catches. And then honorable mention Marcus Jones. He was Defensive Player of the Month in October. He really took a step forward as a cornerback. I know we both thought he was one of the top nickel corners in the NFL, but he really took a step forward this year. And then also him as a special team punt returner, returning two punts for a touchdown. He had a pick for a touchdown as well. And then honorable mention Assman, where I know his stats don't look great if you look at the accumulated, only 550 receiving yards, six touchdowns, but he's dependable whenever you need a first down. If you're throwing to him, you know he's coming up with it. And then when he's in the lineup versus when he's not in the lineup, you see how different the offense is with him being that potential deep threat where even if he's not being thrown to, he's defenses have to shift their focus to him, and then that allows everything else to open up. So I thought he had a good year last year. I thought he took a step forward even more so this year, even though the stats might not necessarily show that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So three down. This one I thought was kind of hard to get.
I can go with
Just
mine first if you want.
yeah, if you want to go with yours, I just still need to think of the third one for me.
I don't know how you're missing this guy because this is my number one. So my number one, Carlton Davis. Number two is Bryce Barringer, and then number three, probably not fair, but based on all the preseason hype and everything, Kyle Williams.
Okay, and I think that some of those make sense. Um, I've got Schooler, Matt Poo. I'm gonna go Carlton Davis. I'm gonna give an asterisk to him because I think, and I was a little surprised actually. Now I'm thinking about Gonzo, where I thought he was good. There's never anything. It wasn't his fault, but like they also there wasn't much he needed to do either
Yeah,
in this
that's fair.
game. And I think one thing where this defense would be much better is they're playing a hell of a lot of zone.
Hmm.
And you have three cornerbacks that are very, very good man corners. Um, I don't know if part of the reason why they're playing so much zone is that they are afraid of the safety group playing man or the
Yeah,
linebackers playing man, where they're not good enough in coverage. So you can't just play three guys in man and have the rest be zone. Um, because then it mixes up if depending on each person has. Davis has been much better in man. You saw it at the end of the Bengals game when he was actually
yeah,
really effective. That's when they actually started manning up. And that's where we saw that he was able to kind of do press coverage, go with the guy. It's when he's been in zone, he hasn't been effective. And realistically, you shouldn't be paying a corner $20 million to be playing this much zone. Same thing goes for Gonzalez if you have to when you're going to extend them this year. Um, and that's another question. Are they going to extend him? Where if you're going to continue playing this much zone, is he worth $36 million?
Mhm.
Where you could
It'll
get
be over 40.
someone, yeah. I was
He's
just
getting over
mhm.
40 regardless.
So
So yeah,
regardless, is he going to be worth that much money? Where are you going to be playing zone and not press coverage? I think you should just be changing your scheme, getting better players, and then in like the linebacker and safety spot, if that's what's the reason. Um, But that's why I have the asterisk on Davis.
that's
I
fair.
don't think it's totally his fault. I think it's just he's being played out of not out of position, but out of the scheme isn't for what he's meant to do.
That's fair. The thing with him though is it's usually in critical moments you always know he's going to get flagged with pass interference or
Hmm.
holding, and it's
Yeah,
usually in the most inopportune times, which just it's frustrating. I know sometimes it's close, but that happens. Bryce
yeah.
Behringer for me, I know he's had a lot of inconsistent games. Again, watching the Miami Dolphin this game
I was
this
say, my
past week,
God, thank God, he's so much better
yeah.
than
Jake
than
Bailey.
Jake
I don't
Bailey.
know what the hell happened to Jake Bailey. He was what, second team All Pro his second year, if
Hmm.
I'm not mistaken, and then he just fell off a cliff. And I know Barringer has had some downs pretty much the last 2 years after a good rookie year, but he's light and day better than Bailey. So that made me at least thankful for having Barringer over Bailey. And then Kyle Williams, again, not really his fault. He's a rookie, but the off-season hype on him, and then just seems like whenever, especially the first half of the year, whenever he was in the game, it just seemed like he was running the wrong routes.
Hmm.
So I hope better from him, but again, he is still young. He's learning. He doesn't have Tom Brady as his quarterback, who's never going to throw him again. So that's at least a good thing going forward, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. And then I've got Schooler. I just felt like he's whether it's one, I guess again, this isn't his fault because he's not really a defensive player. Whenever he's been in the game on defense, he's been horrible.
Yeah.
And then even on special teams, he's had a bunch of bad penalties. And you just can't have that. And then Matt Poe, he is like kind of that Jekyll and Hyde, where sometimes he'll show up and do really well, and then
Yeah,
other times he looks completely lost, and then is usually at the center of like a big play. Um, so
that's
that's
fair.
where I went with him. Again, really hard to really get like three down players. I don't think anyone
Yeah.
was that bad this year. But you go from there. I have on here Drake Maye. We already talked about him. The only other thing left on here is on him would be um, there's the MVP talk. I know both of us we would vote for him for MVP.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really think there is really an argument for Stafford over him. If you actually look at all the metrics and statistics, and really the only thing that Stafford has over Drake would be touchdowns. Everything else really falls into Drake's spot.
Yeah.
Um, and if you even try and use the strength of schedule argument, if you actually break that down, he's not going against the offense. I'm on another team. He's only going against the other team's defense. If you actually look at the DVOA of the teams that he's going up against compared to the DVOA of the teams that Stafford's going up against, it's actually very similar. And there's not really much of a difference. And there's actually a bunch of top defenses, like you said, that they're facing. The Browns,
Yeah.
I think, number one defense in the league. Falcons have a really formidable defense, at least a lot
Bills
better
have a
than it
really
was
good pass
before.
defense.
So it's a lot different than just looking at strength of schedule overall. You actually just have to look at the defensive strength of schedule.
Yeah.
And there's not that much of a difference looking there. If anything, actually, you look at it, I think the Patriots actually hedge out the Rams a little bit there. Um,
Yeah.
it's having a little
It,
bit.
it's one thing too if like I know both of us are biased. We both want Drake May. If the other opponents, if they actually had a sound argument, that's one thing. but it's more just arrogance of, oh, Matthew Stafford's in a tougher division, even though he finished second, tied for third. Matthew Stafford has more touchdowns. It's pretty much it's essentially trying to just win the argument without actually having a conversation. Where if you at least had a conversation about it, I understand some might disagree. Oh, the Patriots had a softer schedule. That might be why they're 14-3, or it is partially why. But again, it's more just, oh, I'm teammates with him, so I'm gonna vote for him. Oh, Matthew Stafford hasn't won an MVP yet in his career. He deserves it because Drake Maye will win another one in the future. Oh, it's strength of schedule this year, even though last year Josh Allen had the fourth easiest schedule versus Lamar Jackson having a top 10 strength of schedule. It's the inconsistencies and the hypocrisy that just really bothers me with this. And I think
Yep.
Stafford's going to win because of that.
Oh yeah, I 100%. If I had to bet any money, I would say it's going to be Stafford. I think it should be Drake.
Yep.
And then the other thing that you have to think of too is what does the award mean? Does it mean who is the best player in the league? No, it means who's the most valuable to their team.
Yeah.
If you were to put who's more important for their team, if you had Jimmy Garoppolo play quarterback for the Rams this year, how many games would they probably would have looked similar. I think it would be looking the same as if when Mac Jones was in this year for Brock Purdy. There's a lot of that's schemed around, and then a lot of the players that are around them are a lot better. If
Yeah.
you were to put
It,
why am I blanking on his name? The Pastronaut on the team instead of Drake May. The Patriots would have won what, maybe 5, 6 games.
well,
Like
I mean, to be fair with that though, Jimmy Garoppolo is a
is a
better.
better
Again,
quarter. Yeah. If you put Jimmy
he's a piece of
Garoppolo,
glass, but
if you put Jimmy Garoppolo on this team, I think that'd be the better standard.
yeah,
If you put Jimmy Garoppolo on both these teams, where would have they ended up? I don't
yeah.
think the
No,
Patriots
that's
would
fair.
have been anywhere close to where they're at now. Again, I do think that some of the stuff is with Josh, and you would say that maybe they'd win 9, 10
Yeah,
games,
yeah.
but they wouldn't
Which in
look
the
like
AFC
this.
might not be enough to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. But again, also you have to look at the supporting cast too. And again, not to discredit the Patriots players, which I think are underrated, but the Rams have Nakua, who very well could win Offensive Player of the Year this year. You have Devontae Adams, who had what, 15 touchdowns, something like
Hmm.
that. You have two really good running backs in Kyron Williams and Blake Blake Collins, the Michigan running back. I'm
Hmm.
blanking on his name. You have a really good supporting cast with the Rams versus with the Patriots. Your best receiver, again, no knock on him, was Stephon Diggs, who's coming off an ACL and is in his low to mid 30s. And then it's Ass Man, who missed a bunch of games, Mac Hollins, who couldn't get a job with Buffalo again, Demario Douglas, and then Hunter Henry. Hunter
Hmm.
Henry was your number two option. Ass Man was your number three option. And how do they compare to the Rams wide receivers? Puka Nacua had, I think, more yards than your top two receivers combined this year.
Hmm. Yeah, agreed. All right.
And offensive line too. Their offensive line with the Rams was better. They allowed less pressure. And then Stafford, even though he had less sacks, his sacks were more attributed to him than Drake Maye's were. But
Agreed. And the one thing I won't give him, I know some people try and say is like, oh, like Stafford's got Sean McDermott,
Sean
Sean
McVay,
McVay,
yeah,
not McDermott, Sean McVay, as a play caller. I put that as
I think it's a wash
a
between
wash,
the two.
yeah, because I think Josh is that good.
Yeah, agreed.
So all right, next topic. We're gonna rank because of the how well the Patriots have done this year. Who are the top 5 people in order that you would credit for this year? Do you want me to go, or do you want to
Uh,
go first?
I can go first. I think it kind of gets muddy after top three,
Hmm.
because we don't fully know how much each is truly attributing. But I'd say number one, obviously Vrabel. He's the one that came in, set the tone, set the culture, and everything turned around with him. Number two is McDaniels because McDaniels just showed his offensive genius this year and helped elevate Drake May. Number three is Drake May, where his quarterback play this year was just historic for a second year player. He just was breaking record after record. That's where after this it gets a little muddy where we don't fully know how much each person is contributing X, Y, and Z. I have Cowden at 4, because in my mind he's the one that is making the player personnel decisions. Again, there are some people that still say it's Elliott Wolf. In my mind, I choose to believe it's Cowden because Wolf was so bad the previous year. But again, that's just my thought. And then number 5 is Stretch. Uh, Vrabel's, as he says, Ernie Adams, even though no one can ever replace Ernie Adams, and I still think Ernie Adams deserves a spot in the Patriots Hall of Fame.
I'm gonna go similar. I have Vrabel first just because he came in, set the tone. You did have Drake Maye last year. You didn't have Mike Vrabel. You had a different coach last year, and look at how they did.
Yep.
Um, I This one is the other part that was hard because I do credit Josh for a bunch of the stuff, but at the end of the day, Drake has to go out and play. So I just have Drake ranked number 2, Josh ranked number 3, Stephon Diggs as number 4, um, because he's been. I don't know what they would have looked like this year without him. He
Yeah, that's
gave you
fair.
that number 1 wide receiver that Drake really benefited off of. It would have been helpful if he looked like that at the second Bills game because I think they would have won if he actually
Yeah.
played better. But I think we all know now maybe he had a little bit something else on his mind that day.
Yep.
And I think number 5, um, I'm gonna be surprising some people. I have Robert Kraft as number 5 because it takes. I did not expect that Kraft
That's
would
fair.
have been able to suck it up and swallow his pride and fire everyone and
Yeah.
start over and do the right thing.
Well, he
That's a
didn't fire everyone.
really
He didn't fire Wolf.
oh yeah, fire Wolf, but Wolf was basically getting coffees,
Yeah. We
calling,
think.
dialing the phones,
Yeah.
sending the faxes, turning off the lights at night, locking the doors. But anyway, it's really hard to do all of that where you had your
Yeah.
handpicked guy and you have all this money tied up in people, and then to just reset after 1 year and to admit that you were wrong, and then making the right decision to say, hey, I was wrong. Mike is the right guy. I'm going to put my faith in what Mike wants to do and go from there. And then I still think, based off of some of the conversations, I know this varies depending on who you listen to in the league. Was Josh Mike's guy or is Josh like Kraft's guy? There were rumors that Josh was tied with Mike to go to the Bears. So that's why I believe that Josh would have been with him regardless. But if he
Yeah.
wasn't, it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt that Robert was here to kind of facilitate that too. And you just look to see how well that's worked together with Josh and
Yep.
Mike. Um, so I would have Kraft on there just because
That's fair.
he could have easily said, "I'm going to trust my gut 1 more year and then make it work out," and we would be. I don't even know where it'd be. I should have made this a question: what the record would have been for this year with the same cast of characters. I'll
Probably
actually make it right now. What would you say?
6-11.
Yeah, I would say probably 7 or 8 wins at most,
I don't think that much, but
and it would look very ugly. And that
yeah.
would just be hoping that Drake would be pulling stuff out of his ass. And I don't know if he even
Yeah.
would be able to do that.
With this coaching staff.
Yeah. All right. All right. News around the NFL. Latest was John Harbaugh being fired. In the stretch of other people being fired, Stefanski with the Browns, Gannon with the Cardinals, Morris with the Falcons, Dable a lot earlier in the year with the Giants, and then Carroll with the Raiders. Um, I know with Harbaugh, it was surprising when it happened, just because there was so much that came out saying that it sounded like his job was safe, and that it
Yeah.
was going to take a lot for him to be fired, like if they didn't agree on the
Hmm.
direction of the team. And basically, it sounded like that was the whole reason where he didn't want to fire his OC, and the owner did. Um,
Rumors that, and then there's rumor again. It's conflicting. Rappaport saying one thing, Schefter's refuting what Rappaport's saying, but there are some that saying that he lost the locker room, that Lamar Jackson wanted him gone, things like that. Again, we don't really know who to believe when two of the quote unquote top reporters are
mhm.
saying opposite things.
Yeah.
But again, for someone that was there as long as he was, 18 years, again, I think he's significantly underperformed, especially the last 5, 6 years. Again, some of it is tied to Lamar Jackson sucking in the playoffs, but he lost to far inferior teams in the playoffs. He's only has 3 playoff wins in the last 11 years,
Mhm.
so it's not too surprising.
Yep. All right. So next question. So question around the league. Rank what spot is the most attractive. So give your top three attractive destinations.
Top three: Ravens, Falcons, Giants.
Oh. Um, and what's the reasoning behind those?
I think just Ravens, you have the quarterback. Again, I know that his rushing was down a lot this year, and then rushing quarterbacks don't do well as they get older. But there are always are outliers, and I think that you have the offense in place. You can improve your defense through the draft and free agency. So you have more in place with the Ravens. Falcons number two, I think talent wise, outside of quarterback, they're probably the most talented team of all the available teams. You just may or may not have a quarterback. It depends on if you think Cousins improving from last year, he's fully healthy, or if you still believe in Michael Penix, or you think that you might be able to find someone on like a 1 or 2 year reclamation project, like a Kyler Murray, or get someone in the actually you don't have a first round pick this year, but like a Kyler Murray, or if you believe in one of those two. And then three Giants, they likely have the quarterback out of the others. Again, who knows if he keeps getting concussions. You have encouraging, talented players. You just have to need a little bit of time to really build that team together.
Yep. I have it, I think, completely flipped from you. I have the Giants number one, Falcons number two, and Ravens number three. Giants, I think you have the quarterback. Again, is he going to be healthy enough in 3 years from now? God only
Yeah.
knows. But I'd be willing to take the chance because that kid can spin it.
Yeah.
And he can run, he can throw. He's got kind of that moxie that I always look for in a quarterback. And again, not everyone always, you don't have to be like that, but I do kind of
Yeah.
like it. Yeah, and Drake doesn't really have that, and Drake's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like that out of him. You have running back, you've got neighbors at wide receiver, you've got a good kind of defensive core. It's just you got to put it together.
Yeah.
Um, the Falcons, I think they kind of have everything but the quarterback.
Yeah.
And I do think it can be bandaged together in the meantime, where there are options out there to kind of make it survive till you find the one. And
Yeah.
I honestly would actually just run it back with Cousins this year. It looked a lot better with him in at quarterback than with Penix. Cousins could actually run the offense. I think the way that it was intended, and he knew how to really play the position. Penix, everything just looks slow when you're watching him. And I did have that kind of thought when I was watching him, and when I did start watching him in college towards the end, when I knew it could be a possibility. It just everything with him just looks slow,
Yeah.
and it hasn't gotten sped up, and I just don't think it's going to work out with him. It doesn't help that he's torn ACL for the third time now.
Yeah.
And then the Ravens, I still have his third, so it's not one of the worst ones. I don't love Lamar. I know neither of us do. I
Yeah.
also think he's almost cooked. Like when you have a quarterback that's mobile like that, and then it just looks like he's gotten a lot of hits and he's had a lot of rushes. And then there's also this stat out there where I don't know if he's actually had it because he's been hurt a ton, so I don't think he's ever had it. But the amount of hits he's taken, it probably makes it very similar. But there's never been a quarterback that's had 100 rushing attempts for at least 6 seasons to play past 32. That's one thing we want to look at for Josh Allen. He'll probably break that.
I don't know if there's
Lamar,
any other quarterback though that has had 100 rushing attempts in 6 different seasons.
there has
So,
been.
so
There's been a
who's there,
list of
Vic?
them. They haven't made it past 32.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Oh,
I have to go back and see what the lists were, but they made it to
yeah.
like 30, 31, 32. I think Cam Newton was the oldest at I think 32.
Yeah.
Um, it just I think he's done. Like I think it's not gonna get any better with him. And I did say this before, and he started to have a little stretch of health, but I just don't believe in him being here for too much longer. Um, And other than that, it's really a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Who would
Who would since we both have one additional thing I would say about the Falcons is with all the questions and crap quarterback play the last 2 years, and with Raheem Morris, who was terrible, as we both said was going to happen as their head coach, they still won 8 games both years. So if you
Mhm.
actually get a good top coach and you can get competent quarterback play in a shitty division like the NFC South, I mean, I think that's why. I was even thinking maybe them even above the Ravens, but I think they are a true destination. But since we both had top three, who would be your fourth? That's your fourth highest.
This one's hard because they're
I
all
have
very
mine. It
similar.
might surprise you.
Mine's gonna go with, and this is putting a lot of faith in one man.
Yeah, I know
Um,
where you're going.
is I'm gonna say the Raiders.
Yeah,
Um, Only because the Browns just the you can't trust they've always been the Browns. They've
mm,
never done well. They and again they have talent on the roster. It's not like they're a
yeah,
really bad team. Again, they need a wide receiver, they need a quarterback. But they've got a really good defense. Um, it's just them being the Browns. They've never done anything. The Titans, I would say, is it's either last or second to last. Their owner's
yeah,
terrible, and they're never going to win anything with her. Cardinals very similar. I think they've got an idiot owner, and they're cheap as well. So I just don't expect anything out of them. They also don't have a quarterback either. I don't think Murray's going to be there for much longer. I know they're saying they might run it back with him one more time just to see if another coach can get something out
yeah.
of him, which I think is crazy because they're not. And then, um, so the reason why I have the Raiders for is because one, they have the number one overall pick, and that could do something. That could be the quarterback that you need. Um, and they have I think $100 million in cap space coming up, uh, and they could do a bunch of stuff with that. They could also trade Max Crosby, get something for him, if that's what they're looking to do, and they kind of have that total reset where they can kind of. The thing is, the reason why I said I'm putting my faith in one man is that Tom needs to hire the right guy. He needs to make sure that Mark spends money, which money may not be what he has, because we know that Mark is, besides the Bengals owner, is one of the poorest owners in terms of, and again, poor is relative, but they have a lower amount of cash flow compared to other teams. Um,
I think that's blown out of proportion though, given that
they're paying
uh, all
coaches
these different
$56
coaches
million
and they
dollars
wouldn't
right
yeah,
now.
they wouldn't move on. Like Gruden's one thing where they weren't expecting to, but they wouldn't be moving on from these coaches if
Hmm.
that truly was the case.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, I have the Browns just because they have a really good defense. They have some good young players on offense. They seem to hit all their draft picks from last year, and they have two first round picks this year, including a top five. If they're able to get a quarterback and then wide receiver through the draft or something like that, they're not that far away. And if you have a good coach, you might be able to get some out of it. Or they could trade for like a Kyler Murray as a stopgap for a quarterback and then use first round pick on a wide receiver if they don't believe in the quarterback there. Versus the Raiders, their culture is just toxic. They just don't have winners there. I know Brady as the up at the top, if he might be able to change things, especially if he's able to bring in B-Flow and Dable as OC. But they just have too many holes, and then the culture there is just not great. So that's why I have the
Hmm.
Browns at four. But
All right. Next question I had was, who would you hire each spot? That would take forever, I think. Why don't we just go with the top three that we had? Who would you hire the three spots that we had?
um, I think Harbaugh is likely going to the Giants, if I had to guess, unless the Bills fire McDermott. Falcons, I would hire B-Flow. I think B-Flow would be great at either the Falcons or the Ravens. Ravens, he can build up that defense more. Falcons, he can take that defense to the next level. And I do think B-Flow is a great coach. Um, I'll go with Stefanski in Atlanta, B-Flow, Ravens, Harbaugh with Giants.
I actually was thinking the same exact thing. That way, you give them a offensive-minded coach in Atlanta,
Yeah,
and then with Flores, I think that he would be kind of what this is the thing with him and Lamar. If Lamar is having issues with the offensive coordinator or Harbaugh or both, um, I don't know how Flores would be going into that situation just because we know how he was with Tua. I am thinking, based on how he's talked, I think he's learned from that situation
yeah, I think he
and
has.
would treat it a lot differently. And I think their defense was horrible this year. It got
Yeah,
better towards the end of the year, but I think that they would need that defensive coach. And that's why I would have Flores there. I would have Stefanski down in Atlanta, and then Harbaugh sounds like he's just going to the Giants, so I'll say there. But
but
I actually would think Stefanski would do well with the Giants, just with Dart. Unless Dart loses his mind with like CTE in like a year.
and one guy who I don't think will get a job, but I think should is Dable. I think Dable kind of got the shaft with the Giants, where they
hmm
didn't really have much talent, and he's the one that picked out Dart. According rumors, we don't really know, but the rumors were that Schuhen wanted Sanders,
Oh, it
Dable
wasn't even
fought.
rumors. It was they had the video of it going
Yeah.
on. Um,
So, like, I think Daboll should get a head coaching job, but if he doesn't, if he follows B-Flow to the Ravens, where B-Flow's biggest issue has always been offensive coordinators, he brings in an offensive coach that he knows and trusts and has had success throughout the NFL, throughout college, to be that offensive-minded or coordinator with him, so he can focus on building the team, building the culture, and focusing on the defense.
all right. I didn't add this, but I'm going to add this one additional question before we get to the next two. If the Bills do fire Sean McDermott after if they lose this weekend, who would you hire there?
I think they're going to just hire Harbaugh. But who would I? I'd hire Flores because I think Flores is the top five head coach.
I'd hire Dable.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Dable would be the one for that. I don't think Dable should have been fired from the Giants to begin with. I think Dable has that connection with Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen would actually play better because you've seen where he's had some of that recklessness and kind of that Brett Favre-ness back in him. It's actually gotten worse each of the last like two
Well,
years.
last year he won MVP.
He did, but you could. It was still he had more of those reckless
Yeah,
plays that kind of Dable kind of beat out of him before, and I
yeah,
think that's what led into this year where you've seen even more kind of turnovers or turnover worthy plays that he's had because he's put a lot on himself. Again, the team isn't as good, so I think part of that's that reason too. He doesn't have enough around him. But
yeah,
again, I don't think you need that much around you. Where you saw what Brady would used to do with what he had around him.
yeah,
You look at May. Again, I do think the Patriots wide receivers are better than the Bills, but if
yeah,
Josh Allen is this great number one quarterback, he should be able to kind of elevate what's around him.
yeah,
Um, so I think Dable would be really good there, and then help put them over the hump. Because if I
sure,
were the Bills, I would they should definitely be firing McDermott because I just don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna get too far this year, and if they do, they won't fire him, which would be a
yeah.
mistake. But I think he's what's holding Josh back because they should have had at least one Super Bowl in this period. Will Josh McDaniels ever get a third chance?
No. Well, some owner might be stupid enough that he does, but I say no, and I don't think he deserves a third chance because
hmm
in both his stints, more than 15 years apart, he did the exact same mistakes. He did not learn from what his mistake year one or his stint one, and he was fired a year and a half into both, and deservedly so. So no, I don't think he will get a third chance. I think he should just stay as offensive coordinator. That's where he's good at. He doesn't have to worry about anything else. But
I think he
again,
should. Go ahead.
I think another owner might give him a chance, but he just is not built for being a head coach. I really believed in him getting a second chance. I thought he would turn things around, that he would learn from his mistakes. He would learn from under Bill, that second chance, but he just did not.
I think he will get another chance because I think there's going to be an owner out there saying that these other guys didn't know what they were doing. I can win with him. That he's this great offensive mind. But look what he's done with Drake. Look what he even did with Mac Jones. Where if you actually look back at it, they didn't really do that. that much towards the end.
Yeah.
Um, and look what he did with Brady. Um, do I think he should get one? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me thrice, I'm a horse's ass. I would give him a third chance just to see. I don't want him having a third chance because I
Yeah.
need him to stay here for the next 15, 20 years.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. Part of me just thinks that if he was given a little bit more leeway, if the players weren't a bunch of clowns with the Raiders,
But
and
you look at the mistakes he did. How many games did he just fold in the second half where they were up and then they blew a 10-point lead? It was the same exact things. Terrible clock management, not knowing how to manage the game, manage the clock, manage your timeouts at the end of the games. It's exactly why he got fired with Denver too.
yeah, I think he would need to get himself a like a stretch type of guy
Mm.
with him. That's the thing, and I don't put the him losing the players. I think that's also part of the problem with the players that were there to begin with.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't put that all on him. Who's going to win Coach of the Year this year? I know both of us think that Mike should win it, but who will win it? And I think this is we were talking right before this. You could really name a bunch of different guys and have arguments for them, and I honestly. I wouldn't be upset really about really any of them getting it.
Yeah.
Because you could even make the argument for look at even someone that I don't like is Kyle Shanahan, what he's done with the 49ers with Purdy being out for so long and all the other injuries. But who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, like you said, pretty much most of the head coaches that are in the playoffs, outside of a few, you could make the argument for. The few that I don't think you really could are Sean McDermott. I don't think you could really make it for Sirianni. But other than that, pretty much all of them you can make a case. Probably not Sean McVay, probably can't make a case with that, but all of them you can make a case. I think it should be Vrabel, but I think it's going to come down between Liam Cohen with the Jaguars and McDonald with the Seahawks, and I think ultimately it'll be McDonald with the Seahawks winning it since they are the number one seed in a tough division.
Yep, I think it's going to be McDonald that's going to win it. I think you can make the case for really any of them.
Yeah.
I think Sirianni they're winning despite him. So even more so than McDermott.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what he does. Um,
I think he does more than McDermott, but it's tough to know with coaches that don't call the plays.
mhm,
Unless you're a guy like Bill or Vrabel, where you can see the culture and everything that they're building in the
mhm.
game plans. But
Yeah. All right. We're gonna get into the Chargers real quick. I did pull up some stats that I think are really interesting before we get into the team itself. Just on you look at one of the reasons why I was kind of hoping for the Chargers. One, we know that they're pretty banged up, especially on offensive line. Um, but the other thing is one that they're coming from west to east. Again, it doesn't matter as much because it's a 8 o'clock game rather than a 1 o'clock
yeah,
game. But the other aspect, and this is actually really interesting looking at, is the type of team they're at coming up from West Coast. So being that they are a dome team and like a warm weather team, just statistically how
they're
those
not
teams
they're
have.
not a true dome
It's
team
not
though. The way that
technically a dome
SoFi is,
because I'm considering this dome because it's enclosed. They don't have to deal with
it
the elements.
you have to deal with the cold when it's cold. But again, and it doesn't get like
It
freezing cold.
doesn't
It can get in the 50s.
it doesn't get that cold.
It gets in the
Um,
50s.
yeah, that's still not that cold.
Yeah, but it's not
Um,
like a dome where it's 75
these
regardless of what
numbers
it
are
is outside.
including SoFi Stadium as a dome team, though.
Okay.
So in these numbers, dome or warm weather teams that have gone outside to someplace cold and actually won a championship. So a little bit different than right now, but this would be winning the actual Super Bowl. There's only been four, and realistically, even the 49ers, that's really splitting hairs to say that they're a warm weather team because San Francisco isn't that warm in the wintertime. But '06 Colts, they won at Baltimore, won the Super Bowl. '02 Bucks won at Philly, won the Super Bowl. 1980 Raiders won at Cleveland and won the Super Bowl that year, and then the '88 49ers won at Chicago. That's four teams in the last 50 something years. Again, this isn't them. The Chargers aren't winning a Super Bowl this game, so I just thought that was a really interesting stat. But then you look at dome teams coming out on the road, outside. There are 16 and 60. They have a 200 winning percentage. All road teams have a 375 winning percentage, so still not a great winning percentage, but it's below what every team is. And then you look at the record in games that are 40 degrees or below for these dome or warm weather teams. They're 1 in 14. Um, so again, very low record. Um, and something I was kind of looking forward to about having them come out here because it's going to be cold. Probably not as cold as the Miami game, where that was bitterly cold. But I think it's supposed to be in the 30s at night on Sunday. But
Yeah,
again,
when I looked a couple days ago, it might have changed, but when I looked a couple days ago, it was supposed to be around 27 at kickoff,
mhm.
but it might have changed since then.
Um,
Uh,
oh, go
one
ahead.
other thing too is when they were playing, when was it? I think maybe it was at Kansas City. It was one of the cold. They were playing a cold game a few weeks ago, and then Justin Herbert was complaining about how during warmups, like he could feel it with his broken hand and how it was bothering him. Again, I can't remember which game it was at. It might have been at KC. Um, but that's something to keep in mind. Also, Justin Herbert historically has done bad against the Patriots outside of last year with our crap coaching disaster, organization disaster crap. But I don't know how he's done against Vrabel historically. I know his three worst games of his career have been against Bill Belichick as the head coach, and Belichick knows how to shut him down. I'm assuming that Vrabel will look at those game plans of what they've done to help shut him down, and then that's when he's had better offensive lines. His offensive line this year, with the injuries to Slayton and Joe Alt, has really crippled their offensive line. So if you're able to get a pass rush, which Patriots haven't done consistently this year, but if you're able to get a pass rush, especially from starting from the inside and then with those tackles, if you're able to get some rush on the outside too, that should be a recipe of helping to slow down or stop the Chargers offense.
Right.
And then I also believe Omarion Hampton, their running back, did not practice today, so that's something else to keep an eye on.
All right, that'll be good. So yeah, I think with the Chargers, their offensive line is pretty battered. They're actually one of the worst offensive lines I think in the league because of that right now. I think
Yeah.
they are ranked 32nd in DVO in offensive DVOA. Um, and with Herbert's hand again in the cold is that gonna be it's gonna be even more difficult for him to kind of grab the ball. So I really want to see the Patriots try and get after him, see if they can kind of cause some fumbles or turnovers, where it'll be difficult for him to kind of have that grip on the ball. Uh, Overall, their offense they've had some production, which is surprising. I know that we've seen a little bit of a down year with McConkey, but he still has, I think, over 750 yards for the year. Him, Allen, and Quentin Johnson, they all have over 750 yards each. So they do
Yeah.
have some production. Allen, I think, does look a little washed, but he is Herbert's kind of safety blanket, and their defense is really good.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it should be pretty interesting, and I don't think it's gonna be a blow or anything like that for this game. I think the big thing for the Patriots, the kind of the key of the game would be make sure to get ahead, and that way that they kind of keep the game on their own terms, and that way that they're kind of forcing the Chargers to pass and then have pass protect and not kind of have that balance of running and throwing, and that way you can kind of make sure that the offense. Um, has to play kind of one directionally there.
Yeah. And a couple things too, like you said, that their pass blocking isn't great. The Patriots, I believe the Chargers have the 31st best pass block in the NFL. The Patriots have the 31st uh, pressure rate when not blitzing in the NFL. Again, some of that's when they've been without Milton Williams. But if Williams and Barmore are able to set the tone from the inside, and then you have Chase on the outside, you have if Landry's back on the outside, if you have Jennings, who stepped up the past few weeks. That'll be a way to help set the tone. And then Patriots, when you're in the red zone, they're just really going to have to execute, get touchdowns. You can't be settling for field goals, but you also it's been making me nervous seeing how often they've been going for it on fourth down this year, where I'm worried that they're gonna go for it and miss, and that's might cost them. I know I trust Vrabel, but that's been one thing throughout the year where they're going for it in situations where I don't think they always should be.
Yep. So the um over under is 46. The Patriots are
Oh,
favored by three.
one more thing too is the Chargers by a lot of the advanced metrics, this Chargers defense, especially their pass defense, is one of, if not the toughest defenses that the Patriots are going to be playing this year. And so that's going to be a challenge for Drake Maye. He's done well against the Browns. He's done well against the Falcons compared to other quarterbacks. But that's something to keep in mind where he is going up against a challenging team. And one thing I'm interested to see if Rabel is going to help instill into the team this week is that the Chargers pretty much sat all their starters this week, knowing that they'd be playing the Patriots. So how are you going to go into this week? How are you going to stand up for yourself, knowing that they picked you, they picked playing you? And I'm sure that's something Vrabel is going to keep reminding them throughout the week. They wanted you. Are you going to be able to stand up for yourself now?
Yep. I can see them kind of wanting the Patriots though too, where they don't have that
Yeah.
much of a pass rush. So
Yep.
having someone to kind of maybe not exploit their really bad offensive line could have been part of the reason why
Yep.
they wanted that. So again, Patriots favored by 3.5 over under 46. I've got them winning 31-24. I think it'll be close. And they'll just nudge them out by a touchdown.
I have Patriots 27-13. I think that they're going to take the lead early and they're going to execute. I think the Chargers defense will hold them to a couple field goals possibly earlier in the game, but I think this Patriots team is just better than the Chargers, so I think ultimately they'll win out and by a decent margin.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And look forward to doing this again throughout the postseason. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll talk to you guys next time.